So the theme this week is going to be around temperature forecasts. If we look at last week, temperatures were very, very cold, below seasonal norm, and that saw a step up in demand, which made increased system tightness for both gas and power. Moving into this week, we've seen temperatures rise warmer, back above seasonal norm. That's potentially going to provide a bit of respite for the system this week, with potentially seeing prices start to soften. Towards the end of the week, however, temperatures are expected to dip back below seasonal norm. And if we look across the pond as well, we're seeing very cold temperatures in Europe, which might result in altered flows to the UK in terms of gas and power connections. Looking more generically at supply and demand, we're still seeing really strong supply from the UK continental shelf as well as the Norwegian continental shelf, and that's acting to support the system and see quite wide supply margins at the moment. In terms of wind generation, again, we're seeing quite rough weather up in Scotland this week, which is seeing wind generation step up, and we're forecasting as much as kind of 7 gigawatts worth of capacity on Tuesday. And that's expected to stay for most of the week, which again is going to potentially widen supply margins. But as I've said, we are looking at seeing temperatures get colder towards the end of the week into next week, where we're back below seasonal norm, so it could just be a temporary short-term increase in temperatures. Finally, the last key driver we're looking at the moment is the pound versus the euro, which is taking a bit of a hit, and we're down at kind of multi-month lows again, and that's as a result of sentiment around Theresa May's recent statements around Brexit and what the terms might look like upon leaving. So we start off looking at the day-ahead market for both gas and power. Last week we saw prices start to consolidate after a volatile Christmas, and then that was mostly linked to the fact that we saw a very stable supply-demand situation. Although demand was higher because temperatures were cold, it didn't change an awful lot, so we saw price action stay largely consistent. However, this week we've seen temperatures increase and demand step down, so there is potential for some losses on the day-ahead market for both gas and power. Looking on a seasonal basis, the uptrend is very much in force still. We did see a bit of a pullback at the start of last week, again retracing some of the volatility we saw over Christmas, but the uptrend is still in force and we're expecting further gains looking forward. Again, on the horizon there's a lot of uncertainty around Brexit and around what production is going to look like in terms of OPEC crude oil production moving forward, and all these things could potentially see prices increase moving forward. So our message hasn't changed massively, as the market conditions haven't massively changed either. In terms of fixed price contracts, we're looking at making sure you're considering a much longer supply agreement than you may be used to. So over the last few years, a 12-month contract will have done you very, very well, constantly fixing at the bottom of the market. However, moving forward, potentially looking at a more volatile commodity market going forward, which is potentially going to see further and further increases. So if you're fixing on a 12-month, all you're going to do is potentially commit to a yearly increase going forward. If you extend and fix for a longer duration, you're going to get increased price certainty in a rising market, so you're potentially going to beat the market moving forward. In terms of flexible contracts, again, this message is the same with regards to supply agreements. Make sure you're extending out as far as you possibly can. 2020 and beyond is ideal. And again, even if you're in a supply agreement, the prices you're fixing at or trading at today aren't necessarily fixed for life. You've always got the option to re-expose that back to the market should we see some downside in the future, which is perfectly plausible. However, at the moment, with the uncertainty over Brexit, uncertainty over where oil price is going, it's looking very, very bullish, with prices potentially increasing moving forward. And the best thing you can do is get in a supply agreement in place and get protecting prices where they are.